Alright YouTube, this video is partially addressed to Democrats who were on board with Bernie Sanders' progressive socialism and now they're tacitly supporting Hillary Clinton because, oh, well, it's better than Trump or some bullshit like that. You know, every 4 years, the Democrats and the Republicans, they completely harangue the population, say, oh, this isn't the year to vote third party because scary other person from the other party. Like the Republicans say, oh, well, we got to stop Hillary, so don't waste your vote on the third party this year. And the Democrats say, oh, well, Trump is the orange Hitler, so don't waste your vote on a third party. Vote for Hillary to stop him. It's just a bunch of bullshit. They've been doing this for years. I've stopped listening to it. I know a large host of other people who have stopped listening to it. I don't know really personally any Bernie Sanders fans that are on board with Hillary. I know at least one is going to vote for Trump. The rest, as far as I know, are all voting for Jill Stein or Gary Johnson. So thankfully, people are no longer receptive to this form of dishonest propaganda. See, the reason why the two parties are so scary to people, and it's just a measure of which one is less scary to them, and that's really what the Democrats and Republicans exploit, is because they've been in power for so long. They don't feel challenged by these smaller parties. They realize they can promise the moon on a stick, and then once elected, they give people shit on a stick instead. But this is perhaps the most relevant issue to a lot of those Bernie voters, is the TPP. Now, Obama was jeered openly at the DNC. He's been excoriated on social media whenever he talks about the TPP. You'd think eventually he would have the capability to learn from his mistakes, realize that this is not happening, that the public will is not with him, that the right wing and the left wing fundamentally agree that the TPP is a bad idea, the former because of jobs, the latter because of environmental regulations, homeopathy, and some of those things. You'd think that eventually he'd learn from this mistake, but no, he's continuing to push the TPP. Oh, I want to sign it, I want to get it through Congress. Now let me warn people who may be sort of on the fence about Hillary and are former Bernie bros, or they're kind of Green Party socialists, but they might end up at the last minute saying, oh, well, I gotta stop Trump, so I'll vote for Hillary or whatever. If Hillary Clinton is elected, she'll spend at least 4 years and possibly 8 years pushing for the TPP also. The fact that she's willing to lie to you and say, oh, well, yeah, on further review, I'll have to look through it and see if we can reform it before I sign. That's a bunch of bullshit. She won't do any such thing. This is just another, it's like overturning Citizens United, the other big thing for a lot of the Bernie Sanders fans. We got to get corporations and banks and lobbies and so forth out of the elections and ban these super PACs. She's not going to do shit about that. She's gotten $48 million so far just from hedge fund managers. She's not going to do a damn thing about either of these. The TPP does not benefit the United States. It will crush our workforce. It will see more hundreds of thousands of good-paying middle-class jobs leave the country. It doesn't help the other member states, at least as far as their populations go. What it's really about is fascism. It's literally a fascist trade deal. It is literally collusion between large corporations like Monsanto or Walmart or something and the US government and the governments of all these other states. That's all it is. It has nothing whatsoever to do with free trade. It has nothing to do with growing business. No, what it will lead to, under the auspices of the TPP's wording, is that large corporations that have given kickbacks to Uncle Sam or any of these other governments will suddenly find themselves empowered through bureaucracy to sue other sovereign nations for trying to protect their own local businesses. That's certainly not going to help the average U.S. small business. It's also not going to help the average family-owned or small business in Malaysia or any of the other states that are on board with the TPP. Some have sort of given it the go-ahead. Others have stalled out. Like, I think Japan is resisting. I think the UK is resisting. And of course, here in the United States, resistance is arguably the largest. And I'm not surprised. The average person in this country will see no benefit whatsoever from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It is not a free trade deal. And shame, by the way, on Gary Johnson for considering signing it if elected. Now, obviously, that's like a 1 in 1,000 shot that he would be. I don't know what he's thinking, though. I'm assuming he just hasn't read it, and he heard the term free trade deal, thought it was actually free trade, and so he said, well, I'm on board with it. Well, if it was an actual free trade deal, to clear away some regulations, to let businesses, not just corporations, large corporate entities, but regional chains, small businesses, to expand, to compete, to take part in an actual free market situation without a bunch of intervention. That would be all great. Hell, I'd sign something like that, but that's basically the opposite of what the Trans-Pacific Partnership is. That's the problem. Now, the Democrats, the left-leaning Democrats, the actual liberals within the Democratic movement, they realize this. They realize, well, it's just giving corporations the right to sue indigenous people in the brown people's part of the world, and that pisses them off. I mean, they don't care about jobs here. They don't care if the job market in the U.S. gets destroyed. They sure as hell care if some, like, herbal tincture seller in Malaysia gets put out of business, because it's cool, it's ethnic, or something like that. And the Republicans, they don't really care about screwing people in the third world, but they do care about the manufacturing jobs we have in the United States. Bush didn't care. Romney obviously didn't care. Trump, I think, cares, along with at least a majority of Republicans in Congress. I know someone like Rand Paul would care. Hell, even Ted Cruz cares about this issue. When Ted Cruz and Rand Paul find themselves in agreement with Donald Trump on something, sort of like the unholy trifecta, you know there's something screwed up, especially when they're also agreeing with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. So this is reaching across the aisle. But it also reaches across the aisle in terms of those that are supporting it. You've got people like Obama agreeing with people like Boehner, sort of the corporate-controlled class of Democrats and Republicans love the TPP. It'll screw people here, it'll screw people there, it'll get them even more money from the corporations and banks that fund their campaigns. And public enemy number one, as far as that goes, is Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump is getting virtually nothing from any of these groups. He raised $55,000 from the hedge fund class in the same period that Hillary Clinton got $48 million. She's also getting pumped full of money by groups like Goldman Sachs. They all benefit from the TPP. Yeah, so if you're working for Goldman Sachs, or you're working for the Clinton Foundation, or you're working for Monsanto, you probably support the Trans-Pacific Partnership. If you work in anything else, you probably don't. It's like 99% of the population either gets no benefit or they get harmed by the partnership agreement. It's a stupid idea. It shouldn't be reformed. It should simply be done away with altogether. It should die in Congress and never be revived again. And while we're at it, we should get rid of NAFTA and CAFTA and all of these other retarded deals, which have done the same thing. If you thought NAFTA was bad, and it was, and Bubba Bill liked NAFTA, and W liked NAFTA, now, I would think that would be a pretty good indicator when these two scumbags are on board with the same thing, that it's probably not good for the nation and not good for the world at large. Great for China, maybe. Great for a handful of tin-horn dictator states that want to siphon U.S. jobs. Other than that, what responsibility do the people of the United States have to prop up industry in any country other than the United States? That's what I would ask. It's sort of like a populist argument. What responsibility do we have? What responsibility does the U.S. government, that's supposed to represent our interests, what responsibility do they have to pass such a deal? To see millions of our jobs move to China, which will end up part of the TPP if passed. No, I completely oppose this. I think I'm in the large majority. We're talking a super majority of the American people don't want the TPP. I don't know why Obama keeps trying to foist it on people. And I especially don't understand why anybody would take Hillary Clinton seriously. When she writes her autobiography, she speaks in glowing praise about it. Until the last printing of it, once she began campaigning, that one scrubs all mention of the TPP and says, oh, well, maybe I'll sign it, maybe I won't. She's going to sign it if she's elected. So Bernie Sanders fans beware within the Democratic core at large. If she's actually in office, the TPP will not go away. And she won't reform it. She'll put a Band-Aid on it. She'll do what Congress did with the NSA's spying program, where instead of doing away with something that's blatantly unconstitutional in order to outmaneuver the courts, people like Ted Cruz sold out, and they put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, and they said, oh, well, we'll just make sure that the government's not the one storing the data. All of these private companies will be forced to store the data instead, and we'll still pick through it at our leisure. It's not like they're going to say no to us. It's the same exact program, it's just a different data storage technique. That will be what happens with the TPP. Hillary Clinton if elected, will leave 99% of it intact. She'll put a couple of lines into it, or her staffers will, that won't really inconvenience any of the corporate entities gaining benefit from it, along with the dictatorships gaining benefit from it that are part of the TPP as well. Fucking tin horn oligarchies and retard states like that. And then it'll be passed. And she'll make a big show about how she's reformed it and it's wondrous and now everyone's concerns are addressed. She'll sign it in the dead of night after forcing it, ramming it down the throats of Congress, probably bury it in a 10,000 page manuscript just like Obamacare, and they won't read it and they'll sign it and she'll sign it and everybody will be okay and the other states will sign it too. And then years down the road, when jobs have been hemorrhaged, people will finally realize, oh, I guess it wasn't reformed after all, and by then it'll be too late. She'll already have been reelected, or hopefully, if elected at all in the first term, she'll fucking resign. That's what will happen. So no, I'm not going to buy into the, oh, I've got to stop Trump, so I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton bullshit. She's on board with the TPP. She's a warmonger. She's a dishonest crook. Why would I want to vote for somebody like that? It's just not going to happen. That's about all. Peace out.